Part 2, Station 3. Extension ladder raise, extend, house and lower. The candidate will approach the head of the ladder lying on the ground. They'll pick it up with 2 hands. The candidate is permitted to either do this via the rungs or the strings, whatever they feel comfortable with. They will lift it up to head height, then they'll underrun the ladder, placing 1 hand only on each rung all the way until the ladder is in a vertical position. The candidate will then control the ladder to be able to lower it against the structure. Once it is safely against the structure in a controlled manner, the candidate will then extend the ladder to its full extension. Once it has been extended to its full extension, the assessor says complete. The candidate will then lower the ladder back down to its original position. They will use 2 hands to elevate the ladder from the structure. They will then place 1 hand on every single rung, proceeding backwards all the way until they get to the head of the ladder. Once they get to the head of the ladder, they are then permitted to grasp hold of either the rungs or the strings with 2 hands and lower the ladder to the ground. So the candidate will walk in, place 2 hands on either the strings or the rungs, strings being the outside of the ladder, rungs being the inside of the ladder, depending on what the candidate feels more comfortable with. Elevate the ladder by walking forwards and elevating the ladder, placing 1 hand on every single rung all the way until the ladder is in a vertical upright position. Only 1 hand can be placed on each rung at any time. Once it is in a vertical position, the candidate will then place 2 hands on the rung to control the ladder. They will place their foot on the red upright of the ladder plate and control the lowering of the ladder into the structure. The candidate will move to the side of the ladder. They'll be handed the rear line by an assessor. They'll then do a continuous hand over hand to extend the ladder all the way up. Once the assessor is deemed it is at full extension, the candidate will then reverse this process by doing a continuous hand over hand lowering down until the ladder has been lowered down to its original position. The candidate will then proceed to the front of the ladder. They'll place their foot on the red upright plate to ensure control of the ladder and ensure they do not slip. They'll place 2 hands on the ladder, on the rungs, elevate the ladder from the structure. They will then place 1 hand on every single rung as they walk backwards to be able to lower the ladder back down to the ground. Once the candidate has successfully placed 1 hand on every single rung and have gone to the head of the ladder, they are then able to place 2 hands on either the final rung or the strings of the ladder to be able to control the lowering of the ladder to be able to be placed on the ground. Warnings and fails. If the candidate proceeds to the head of the ladder and goes to pick it up and drops the ladder, this is care of equipment and can damage our equipment, the candidate will be failed straight away. The candidate needs to ensure they have good control of our gear and the ladder before they proceed on with the exercise. The candidate is required to place 1 hand on each and every single rung when elevating the ladder and also lowering the ladder. If the candidate places 2 hands on any individual rung while elevating or lowering the ladder, they'll be failed immediately. It is 1 hand for every single rung. If the candidate skips a rung at any stage, this is a safety risk and the candidate will be failed immediately. When elevating the ladder off the ground or lowering the ladder to the ground, the candidate is not permitted to use the strings to be able to do this. When the candidate is depressing the ladder to the structure, they need to ensure they have control of the ladder and is in a controlled manner. If the candidate slams the ladder against the structure at any stage, they are not looking after our gear, which is care of equipment, and they'll be failed immediately. Ensure you have control of the ladder and our equipment at all times. When extending and lowering the ladder, you'll be given the rear line by an assessor. You're required to stand and do a continuous hand over hand technique on the way up and also on the way down, all the way until the assessor tells you to stop. When you're extending it, you're not allowed to do a 1-2 pull and you are not allowed to drop your body weight to be able to do it. Stand tall and hand over hand. The candidate needs to ensure they have full control of the ladder and they do the reverse with a continuous hand over hand to lower it back down. The candidate is not permitted to allow the line at any stage to slide through their hands. This will be deemed as a loss of control and the candidate will be failed. When lowering the ladder to the ground, the candidate needs to ensure at no stage the ladder comes in contact with their head. This generally happens when the candidate gets to the second last rung, they think they're at the final rung and they start lowering the ladder down. If the ladder comes in contact with your head at any stage, you've compromised your safety and you'll be failed. The candidate needs to ensure they are at the final rung before they start the lowering down process.